neemt nog even een foto. Yeah, for all the people in the room. Yeah, all right. Okay, first of all, of course, a very warm welcome, and I can assure you it's going to be warmer in the course of the 2 hours that we're spending here. It's a Dutch blockchain hackathon, but we speak English because we want to have as many as possible external people from outside the Netherlands to join us as well. That's why we do this in English. Rutger called me a few months ago and said, yeah, can we do a little kickoff and can I have your PR center, etc., etc. So I thought it was a small kind of thing, so immediately said yes, and this is then the result. So we have an overflow room for people who are really getting warm or tired of standing up, etc. You can go outside. There are screens where you can actually see us there. So, but on behalf of ING, a warm welcome. We have a full program with all kinds of speakers. I'm not going to announce them. I'm just going to announce the next speaker, and then the next speaker is going to announce the next speaker, etc. That is a bit how we try to do this. It's a sort of a chain in blocks. Yeah, that is actually it. So, since we're hosting, I can advertise a bit for ING as being one of the I won't say founders, but at least one of the heavy sponsors of blockchain here in the Netherlands. And this is all about, for us, innovation is one of the key elements in our strategy. And let's be clear, we're not innovating because for the sake of innovation. We're innovating because we think by innovating we improve the customer experience. That's actually what it's all about. Yes, it's a bit of a corporate language here. But we seriously mean this, and that's why we keep on investing in elements like blockchain, but also Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, etc., etc. It's on our radar screen and has been for, well, at least the past 3-4 years. It's for us, it's about clear and easy, making things very simple for our customers. It's about anytime, anywhere. It's about insight, empowering customers to do their right things. And it's also for us, and I think that is maybe even one of the important drivers, to get a little bit better every day. And I can tell you by watching what we've done over the past 3 years, whether it's with blockchain or innovation in general, it heavily stimulates, let's say, the organization to get better. It's actually a sort of an internal competition that we're witnessing. If we got people working on a blockchain experiment on correspondent banking, the regular product managers that normally do correspondent banking get very nervous, and they want to get better and better and want to know everything about it. So in the end, it leads to a better product for hopefully all of our clients. Talking about blockchain and having been part of the blockchain, let's say as of 2013, and I know blockchain and actually Bitcoin before that has been around since roughly 2008. People talk about the hype versus the reality. There's still a lot of people who talk to me and say, yeah, it's all a big hype and it's going to go through, etc., etc. I don't know, everybody probably knows the hype cycle from Gartner, right? Where you have the first hype and then you go through the trough of disillusion. Now, we're with blockchain and maybe with, now Bitcoin is somewhere else right now, but with blockchain, I think the financial industry, at least, is somewhere in the trough of disillusion or on its way up. And do remember, all the large products and all the large changes that we've witnessed over the past years, whether it's internet, mobile, etc., went through that same hype cycle. And we firmly believe that in the end, with the potential of blockchain, and not just with the potential of blockchain, but with Internet of Things, with artificial intelligence, etc., our world's going to profoundly change. And that's why we keep investing in these developments, and that's why we're still part of R3. But it is necessary to keep on working jointly towards the future. And what is especially important about blockchain, and that's why we think blockchain is so relevant, because the world where we live in today is really, really complex. We don't own a value chain front to back anymore. There are suppliers, there are clients, there are partners, etc. which makes all these production chains and distribution chains so very, very difficult. And it's almost impossible with our current technology and the current way of working to keep on following that complexity trend. So you have to invent something new. And it's not technology that will just do it, but the thinking behind it that will make the world possible as we will notice in 5 or maybe 10 years. So, having been a few years around that and having been part of that journey, there are a few observations that we have. One of the first is, it started as a real technology kind of push. Well, maybe before that it even started maybe as an anti-financial sort of push with Bitcoin. Bitcoin wasn't here on purpose in 2008 when the crisis was just starting at that moment. But what we're seeing right now and what we've witnessed over the past years is that technology and technology push and what can it do has been one of the main drivers. On the other hand, what we're witnessing right now is that, for instance, R3, who developed Corda, the basic fabric, has now opened Corda, and Hyperledger is joining that. And one of the other things that we're seeing a convergence of the big blocks that are currently working next to each other, slowly into one, and that will help to drive standardization. And standardization in this world, because we're starting from a huge number of different blockchains, public, private, etc., that will be necessary to apply this at a large scale. One of the other things that we're seeing is that the amount of partnerships and the partnerships itself are growing. If you look at R3, R3 is now expanding, more banks jumping in, but also non-banks jumping in. It's moving to Singapore, it's moving to China, which makes, let's say, the depth of what we're doing and the broadness of what we're doing more relevant. And last but not least, when in the first part it was all about technology, does it work, etc., etc., we now see much more use cases, client-driven use cases passing by in the experiments that we're doing right now, ranging from, can we reinvent trade finance, what about correspondent banking? And I think one of the most important and one of the hardest nuts to crack these days for the financial industry is KYC, know your customer. Very complex process, a lot of people involved, a lot of parties involved, and blockchain is one of the solutions that we're really testing to solve this very difficult puzzle. But if you look at standardization in general over the past years, and there have been a number of studies around that, if you want to make this successful, you need a few elements here. And that's why we're here as well. And that's why we want to have more parties join this ecosystem. First of all, when you talk about standards, to be able to create standards, you need recipes to create standards. What is a standard and how does it look like? Today, we don't have that. Governance remains important, how to organize such an ecosystem. Well, in the beginning, it was everyone for itself, and then let's see out of that chaos if something arises. What we're witnessing is that a sort of form of governance is really necessary. You talk about data controls, about compliance, about cyber protection. As we all know, one of the key threats of digitization in general. It's about identity framework. And one of the use cases might be, for the future, to look more at what can we do with identity and personal identity. And finally, it's about reliability and scalability as one of the elements that is needed. And I want to add to that, in the end, there also needs to be a business model. Everyone who thinks that with Bitcoin or with blockchain, everything becomes free, I don't think it's going to work. In the end, people need to work, and a lot of you who are sitting here actually working in the industry, nothing is for free. So, that is one of the key concerns. Are we still making money? Yeah, well, we are all working in that sense, so it will not be for free, but it can be better and cheaper and faster, etc., etc. So, to wrap up, because I need to make a little bit of time up, there was a short investigation which we found on the internet what people thought were the biggest breakthroughs in blockchain in 2016. It was an investigation of the beginning of November. First one, product launches. 37% of the audience said that. Second, new use cases. Third one, 20% existing cases, but then with new technology. So replacing old technology, making it better, safer, etc. Another big breakthrough were new alliances and consortia, 19% and 50% other. And if you have counted, this is above 100%. It's 126%, because people could fill in a bit more. Hey, I'm a banker. Anyhow. So, all right, so this is a bit my intro. I'm not going to say anything more scientific, complex, etc. I'm really proud that as ING we're hosting you here, and that we give you the ability to join this, just actually a kickoff, right, of the hackathon that's going to take place somewhere in February. I hope you enjoy the afternoon. If there are questions, etc., let them come, and let's make this a fantastic adventure for all of us here in the room, and let's put the Netherlands on the map when it comes to blockchain. So, that is my speech. Don't applaud. No, because I'm not completely ready. I have the honor and privilege to introduce Claudia. Claudia van Zuiderwijk. She's, how do you say that? You're the chair of the Raad van Bestuur, the board of the Kamer van Koophandel, the Chamber of Commerce in the Netherlands. But you're also a member of the supervisory board of APG, and that's pensions people, and KPN. I think everyone knows KPN. But you have been in different industries, healthcare, you've been in trains, or at least, well, the tracks of the trains, right? And IT. You have a long history and background in IT. And I looked you up in the internet and saw some of your latest announcements. And interesting, it was about people who are entrepreneurs, and how big can you be, and how big can you grow, and what is important as an entrepreneur. And you a famous quote: your enterprise is going to grow as fast as you are growing as an entrepreneur. And I think that is absolutely correct, and that's why we're sitting here as well. We understand that growing has to do with innovation and reinventing yourself as well, and developing yourself as a person. That's why we're really pleased that you're here and that you're part of the advisory board of this hackathon. Welcome to Claudia.